Welcome to Describe World Channel, where we explore the untold stories and origins of various indigenous peoples. In this episode, we delve into the origin of indigenous peoples, particularly Native Americans, as described in the Bible. Join us as we uncover the fascinating connections between these peoples and their ancestral roots. According to biblical references, the genetic origin of indigenous peoples in the Americas, as well as the natives of Siberia and Russia, can be traced back to one of the descendants of Japheth, the son of Noah. This particular descendant is the offspring of Gomer's son Togarmah. Togarmah is considered the first ancestral father of indigenous peoples and is also recognized as the father of Asian peoples. The DNA tests conducted on indigenous peoples' genetics have indicated that their primary and predominant ancestral origin can be traced back to Asian populations, specifically the descendants of Togarmah. This genetic link supports the notion that Togarmah is one of the progenitors of Native Americans and other indigenous peoples. The physical features and appearance of indigenous peoples further support their Asian origin. Their distinctive traits, such as slanted eyes and dark straight hair, clearly indicate their ancestral connection to Asia through Togarmah's lineage. These physical characteristics are not only evident in genetic studies, but are also visible in the appearance of indigenous peoples. It's important to note that the ancestry of indigenous peoples is not solely attributed to Togarmah, the father of Asian peoples. The presence of dark or brown skin tones among indigenous peoples can be attributed to the descent from one of the tribes of Ham, the father of black peoples. This indicates that indigenous peoples are a mixture of Hamitic and Japhetic lineage, specifically the descendants of Ham and Togarmah. The prevalence of brown and light brown skin tones among indigenous peoples is a common trait that can be observed across various indigenous communities. Additionally, the presence of Negroid features, such as the shape of the nose, in sculptures of indigenous peoples, including the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas, further supports the connection to the Hamitic lineage. Interestingly, there is a tribe in Africa known as the Khoisans, one of the oldest tribes on the continent, that exhibits similar characteristics to indigenous peoples. The Khoisans have traits such as slanted eyes and variations in skin tones, with some individuals having lighter complexions compared to other Africans. This suggests a significant genetic influence from the Hamitic tribe, indicating a connection between indigenous peoples and Asian populations descended from Togarmah. The similarities between indigenous peoples and Asians can also be observed in the native peoples of Siberia, who share features such as slanted eyes, fair skin, and straight, dark hair. Furthermore, there are other ethnic groups that share similarities with Asian peoples due to their common origin with indigenous peoples. In North America, where Native Americans reside, some individuals have fair skin, while others have darker skin tones with facial features that bear some resemblance to black people. However, the hair texture remains predominantly dark and straight. It is worth noting that in certain Asian populations in Siberia, red hair can even be found, adding to the diversity within the broader spectrum of indigenous peoples and their ancestral connections. I kindly request all the viewers who enjoy our series to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. By subscribing, you will receive notifications as soon as we release a new video in the series. Producing these videos involves extensive research and meticulous effort, as we strive to approach the subject matter with care and respect for all the diverse peoples that God has created. Now, let's delve into the topic at hand. When we gaze upon the image of a child, it's natural to ponder whether their origin is Asian or Indian, given the striking similarities. If we were to dress this child in traditional Japanese geisha attire, it would be easy to mistake them for a Japanese child. An intriguing fact emerges when we observe the construction of huts and houses across various indigenous peoples, regardless of their geographic location. Whether we consider American Indians or Siberian natives, there exists a fundamental similarity in their architectural structures. This indicates a close connection among these peoples, despite their belonging to different tribes. According to biblical traditions, it is believed that indigenous tribes dispersed throughout the Americas and other regions, originating from Togarmah and one of the Hamitic tribes. Another intriguing aspect that links them to Asian peoples is the presence of slanted eyes and straight, dark hair. These shared physical features further reinforce the connection between indigenous peoples and their Asian ancestors. Additionally, another commonality can be found in the musical instruments used by indigenous peoples and their African counterparts descended from Ham. Many indigenous tribes possess drums and other instruments that bear resemblance to those found in African cultures. This serves as another point of connection between these two groups. Instruments like the flute also reveal a shared origin between indigenous peoples and their Asian descendants from Tagarma. The flute is a prevalent instrument in Asia, with several similar variations found in other regions. By closely examining the features of an indigenous child, such as their hair, slanted eyes, and skin tone, one can observe the striking similarities to a child of Asian origin. The resemblance is evident. This indigenous child could effortlessly pass for a Filipino child, as some Asian countries have received influences from the indigenous peoples. However, it's important to note that the origins of indigenous peoples trace back to Japheth and Ham, specifically Tagarma, and one of the Hamitic tribes. I hope you enjoyed the video exploring the origins of indigenous peoples, as described in the Bible, specifically from the book of Genesis, chapter 10. If you liked the content, please leave a like to support and strengthen our channel. Your engagement will also help us spread awareness about this series on the origins of peoples. In conclusion, the origin of indigenous peoples, including Native Americans, can be traced back to the descendants of Tagarma, who is recognized as the first father of indigenous peoples and the father of Asian peoples. The genetic and physical characteristics shared by indigenous peoples across different regions further support their ancestral connections to Asia and the Hamitic lineage. The diverse appearances and traits within indigenous communities reflect the intricate mix of ancestry, illustrating the rich tapestry of their origins. Feel free to leave a comment below, particularly if you have indigenous descent. Many peoples in the Americas, including practically all Brazilians, have indigenous ancestors. Similarly, North America is home to numerous peoples with indigenous heritage. Share your thoughts, and feel free to suggest which people you would like to see represented next in our series on the origin of peoples according to the Bible. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon in our upcoming videos.